Well, a new report has found widespread exploitation of workers on holiday visas is occurring on farms in some parts of Australia. The study, undertaken by the McKell Institute, found that some backpackers working in the fruit picking industry are being paid as little as $3 an hour, with some even coerced into unpaid labour. It also found that workers are stuck in crowded, overpriced share accommodation, which sometimes includes shipping containers. Now, the National Farmers Federation have stuck up for growers, as you'd imagine, saying a small number of employers have tarnished the industry's reputation. But the Agriculture Minister today took a dim view of the practices.
It's disgraceful. There's no other way you can sugarcoat it. That is disgraceful, and that is exploitation.
I was joined earlier by Edward Cavanough, the man behind that 3-month investigation that has the Australian Workers' Union calling for a royal commission. Ed Cavanough, thank you very much for your time.
Great to be here.
Can you just give me a little bit of a history lesson? How long have farmers used backpackers in Australia?
Well, the Working Holidaymaker program dates back all the way to 1975. But backpackers have only really been flooding to the region since about 2005, when the Howard government changed the working holiday visa program to basically mandate that workers go into regional areas to complete 88 days of regional work if they want to stay in the country. So there's always been backpackers, working in Australian farms, but the flood of them has really happened in the last 10 years or so.
So those that work on farms don't have working visas, but they have a holiday visa that they can renew if they work?
Absolutely. So conditional to getting a second year in the country is this 88 days that they have to work in regional Australia. Now, they don't have to work in farms, but typically about 80% actually do go and work into farms. And we've been looking at this issue in the blueberry industry because it's marketed as a really enjoyable location to work, Coffs Harbour. The blueberry industry has kind of advertised itself as a job that's really easy to do compared to some other horticultural jobs. So that's been our focus in this work.
Yeah, a lot of banana plantations have been replaced by blueberries in that area because they're, one of the highest selling fruits in fruit and vegetable markets at the moment. So when they work in this format, are they covered by any Employment Act, either at a state or federal level?
100%. I mean, there's no reason why these workers should be getting paid under the legal minimum wage. But unfortunately, the fact that they all work on piece rates enables them to be exploited by workers who might, put them on certain crops that you just cannot pick enough fruit to earn close to the minimum wage. So the illegal practices that we're seeing in these farms, they are illegal. These workers, just because they're foreigners typically, doesn't mean that that employers can get away with paying them well below the minimum wage.
The response by some farmers I've heard before on this, they say that, well, hang on a minute, we give them board, we also give them meals, we give them transport to and from the local town. Does that cover for the money that they don't earn?
Absolutely not. So you'll see workers in the Coffs Coast area in our report who are paying $125, $130 a week to live in a shipping container with 3 other people. Those shipping containers totally cost close to $500, and that's about the same price as a beachside house in some of these suburbs. Then they have to pay for the transport to and from work each day. They might only be getting paid $10, $12, $15 an hour if they're lucky. And then often they even have to buy their own equipment while they're working on these farms, buying buckets, buying gloves, buying other safety equipment. So the idea that that these access to accommodation and access to transport is a bonus, I mean, it just simply isn't the case.
Forget about exploitation because of the lack of money they're earning. The fact that they live in shipping containers, if that's true, it's almost a human rights issue.
It completely is. I mean, typically most of these workers, they live in big share houses with 14, 15, 16 people in them. They might be sharing one bathroom, they might be sharing one fridge. And then you do have these communities of shipping containers along the coast that, frankly, when you walk into these communities, and most of these workers are Pacific Islanders, it is close to a human rights violation, particularly because of the price that these workers are paying.
At $3 an hour, it's almost hard to believe that they'd actually turn up to work.
Well, this is the exact problem with this system, and this is why it's a systemic issue. These workers are going to keep rocking up and earning such little money simply because they need to complete this 88 days of regional work that is conditional to them staying in the country. If they don't rock up to work, then that's one less day that they've got ticked off towards that 88 days. So even if they get paid $10, even if they get paid $15 in an entire day's work, they're still going to rock up. And labour hire firms know this, farmers know this, people all across the Coff Coast and all across Australia are aware of this issue. And unfortunately, it's a systemic problem. That's why it keeps happening.
So is it one of those intractable problems, or can we allow farmers to still make a profit and give these workers at least a minimum wage?
Look, I don't see why these workers shouldn't be getting paid at least the minimum wage. And if the economics doesn't stack up so that you have to pay these workers so far below the minimum wage just to have these operations, operating, I think that's something that we need to really think about. And as consumers, when we're seeing often extremely cheap fruit, often extremely affordable fruit on the shelves, that's a great thing. We want to have affordable groceries, but you do have to have in the back of your mind that, every single berry that you eat, there's been a worker's hand that has touched that, put it on a bucket and put it into a punnet. And you have to have those individuals in the back of your mind when you're a consumer as well.
I guess the paradigm of not being paid as much money has been turned on its head this year, though, because there are 20,000 jobs we haven't filled, and there's some demand out there for workers, and workers can't fill the jobs.
Well, this has been the story of the year, right? In agriculture, we have this constant drumbeat of agriculturalists saying, look, we can't get workers. Well, one of the problems is because we hear story after story, time and time again, of workers getting paid almost no money, getting treated terribly on farms, getting abused by employers, getting abused by labour hire firms, having to live in shipping containers. I mean, I am not going to personally go out into regional Australia, living a shipping container and earn $5 an hour to pick fruit.
No, it's the definition of slave labour, Ed.
Well, it constitutes what we can only really call almost a form of modern slavery. It's a type of indentured servitude. I mean, the only difference really is that there's an end date for most of these workers, and that's the end of their 88-day period where they can leave these communities, go back to Sydney or Brisbane or wherever they may go, and kind of put it in their past.
Let's see whether the government does anything about this after the report has been released. Ed Cavanough, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much.